Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got a review for you of the brand new game Rogue Company, and I've had a lot of fun with this game in closed alpha, especially when it comes to the melee combat. They've done great things to the melee combat system, so you're going to get to see me go to town with the axe and sword and bat. And for those of you that are looking for the shortest possible version of this review, I'm going to say that Rogue Company is like a better version of Valorant. There's going to be a lot of comparisons to Valorant in this review because there are a lot of similarities, but I like this one better, and I'll tell you why near the end of the episode after we've got past the criticism. Today's video is sponsored by Hi-Rez, the makers of Rogue Company, and I am eternally blessed that my review is not required to be biased or positive or anything. What Hi-Rez wanted from me was a real, honest-to-God review of Rogue Company that does include criticisms that'll be coming in the latter half of this video. I do want to point out there is a link below in the description that you can click on to download the game and play today if you want. It's currently in a paid access beta with $60, $40, and $15 tiers, depending on what level of founder pack or cosmetics or just accesses you want to buy. Starting today, there's Twitch drop campaigns, so some people will be getting codes for free if you watch mine or somebody else's stream. At some point in the future, Rogue Company will be going free to play, but for now it's in closed beta. All of the characters and gameplay related elements of the game can be unlocked without paying a dime once it hits free to play, which is fantastic. Of course, there's going to be microtransactions and cosmetics and that kind of stuff, and I do want to point out that the game is available on all consoles, including Nintendo Switch, so my X-Bros, my Sony ponies, and my Nintendo Switch fans can all play Rogue Company. And if you do choose to purchase this game, the creator code DRIFTORTHEREAL on Epic Games will benefit me because it's just, you can just do your Epic Games creator code and I get a cut of the fees, which is great. I know my creator code's a little bit crazy looking, but that's the one I got stuck with. But let's move into the actual review of the game and put aside these little sponsored requirements. Rogue Company is an over-the-shoulder third-person shooter with a big emphasis on being a competitive game. The game modes that you play are no respawn game modes, kind of like Call of Duty Search and Destroy, or limited respawn, limited life number of modes, and they will feel somewhat like Valorant at first. It's available on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. The game is entirely crossplay, so you can play with your friends on any system and any combination of systems, and cross-progression because it all ties into your Hi-Rez account and it just links through everything. And I can definitely see the emphasis on console in this game. Actually, a lot of my criticisms, which we will have criticisms about this game near the end of all the things I'm going to talk about, are about the PC version because I can just tell that this is primarily designed to be popular on consoles. So Rogue Company's core mechanics and gameplay are something of a blend of Gears of War, the Modern Warfare 2 and 3 third-person tactical mode, for those of you that are old enough to have played that, and they use Fortnite's very refined Bloom aiming mechanics, where it's kind of like hipfire, but you aim down sights over the shoulder, your crosshairs either tighten up considerably for SMGs, or they go to pinpoint accuracy for assault rifles, but get wider and spread more randomly as you continue to shoot. Every single gun in the game is like that, except there is a sniper rifle you can aim down sights with, and the medic guy actually has a regular aim down sights rifle. That's one of his special abilities, is normal aim down sights. But if you played Gears, third-person games, Fortnite, it'll all seem very familiar to you. You have your standard movement abilities of sprint, walk, and crouch, each one of which makes different levels of noise. Since this is a no respawn game, a lot of times those noises are very important, and one of the best things that I will say about this game, one of the things I like about this game more than anything else, is that the audio design is very good. It is very on point. I can pretty much always hear when enemies are sprinting and stamping around. I can tell how far away they are, what direction they're going, and it gives me a lot of advantage. It makes me feel like I'm playing a real game, unlike Warzone, which just has completely random audio, so that's a very nice thing. You have a tactical dodge roll, kind of like the ones you have in Gears of War. It doesn't seem to have a cooldown, or at least not a very long cooldown, and I don't think that the roll is faster than sprinting, but it just does make you a harder target to hit. Aiming and corner peeks are kind of third-person standard overall. There's nothing really crazy about that. You can just kind of see over corners. One of the things that I do like, one of the neat little features, is that when you crouch, you always crouch so that your head is covered, and when you shoot, instead of Gears of War where you're kind of sticking your gun over, or like Call of Duty you're mounting, you actually stand up a little bit and put your head up to shoot. So if you're on a head glitch, or what you would call a head glitch in COD, your head is always exposed when you're shooting, and it happens automatically, and I thought it was super good design. You'll see it happening quite a few times here. So there's always opportunity for counterplay. It has a nice little reload timer as well, so you don't have to mentally time or like COD cancel your reloads. So some guns reload faster than others, and you can see the little circle counting down until it's done. It's not like COD where as soon as the bullets hit the gun, you can YY or sprint cancel or stuff. You have an actual timer. I think that's a good design. The zip lines always worked fine, which is, it's actually, zip lines are a good way to test the game for bugginess because they tend to be quite buggy, but they worked great. And you can aim down sights on them too. So a few of the zip lines go past areas of the map that you can shoot into. If you want to swap which shoulder you're looking down, you press the E button on PC and it toggles it back and forth. So one of my criticisms is I kind of liked having Q and E to toggle left and right, but I just have E, the single like switch back and forth. And all of the guns in the game, except for one, have Fortnite-style ADS and bloom. You'll see a lot of similarities with that one. So if you've played Fortnite, which almost everybody here has, you'll be familiar with it. I do think generally they're tighter and more predictable than Fortnite, but there are similarities. The first shots are always a few accurate, very accurate, and I tend to spam a lot with the full autos. Like I will just legit full auto hose people, and it seemed to work just fine. I didn't have any problems with it whatsoever. On the topic of weapons and combat systems, let's talk about the melee weapons. In this game, you have to buy them, which we will get to the buy system that I'm sure you've already seen. And they're not particularly cheap either. You have to buy them for $4,000, and the melee weapons are very powerful. They are a 2 to 3 hit kill depending on enemy health and how much you've upgraded them. If your enemy's weak, you'll probably 2-tap them, and maybe if they're full health and have armor or something, a 3 hit. And as you upgrade your weapons, they can get stronger too, and you can upgrade them to have harder hitting, longer melee ranges, further throwing. Speaking of throwing, my absolute most favorite part about this game is that if you have a melee weapon and you hit the aim down sights button, what your character will do is actually pull it back and hold it like they're going to throw, and you get like a little maybe Gears type grenade arc to follow, and you can throw your melee weapons and hit people at a distance. And it's awesome because they're one-hit kills. You hit somebody with that throwing axe or that katana and they're world starred. They're done. They are absolutely down and out. I think that's a really fun feature. I do it all the time. And this is a more fun version of the get out of my face or I dare you to roll into me type melee systems that made Gears so chaotic, but you have to actually swap to the melee weapons to get those super crazy hits. And I probably have more fun with the melee weapons in this game than I do pretty much anything else. I think it's a very nice system. So it's time to talk about how the core mechanics of the game itself work, like the maps, the modes, the buy system. And one mode that we play, and I think is probably going to be the most popular one from this mode, is very similar to Search and Destroy from Call of Duty or just anything bomb in CSGO or Valorant, where you have one life and you have to plant the bomb and let it blow, or you have to defend and defuse the bomb, or you could just kill the other team to win, right? That's a very standard type of game. I think a lot of us have played it before. I don't really need to explain that. The other mode's a little bit more complicated. It's a zone control mode where there is a neutral zone you have to control, and you only have 12 lives. So you can win by either capping and controlling the zone until you run out of time, like whoever's the last person holding the zone wins, or you can just wipe all of the other people, which is what we mostly did in beta. We just went around and killed everybody. So before the match, you will be asked to pick a rogue to play as. Each rogue has an ability that you can use for free and some kind of passive. Interestingly, they all also have their own unique pistols, melee weapons, and 2 primaries to choose from. You can't get 2 primary weapons, you can just pick one or the other. In most cases, it'll be a longer and shorter range primary weapon depending on the character style, like the sniper has a sniper rifle and then like a DMR. The assault rifle guy has an AR and an SMG, and like the close quarters combat people have like an SMG and a shotgun, but the weapons that you have are tailored to your rogue, to your type of competitive class, and I think that's done for balance reasons. We'll talk about the abilities and the passives very briefly. Most of them are tactical type abilities that give you vision, smoke, close an environment, put a barrier down, something like that. There are a few lethal ones that can kill you, such as Dima, who has a single grenade he can launch, Ronan, who has a ballistic knife that will turn into a mine. It's pretty easy to see and avoid, but if you do touch it, it's a one-hit kill. And there is a person who has incendiary rounds that burn you over time. It just makes her a little bit more lethal when she's using them, but the majority of the abilities are tactical. I found them to be weaker than the abilities in Overwatch or Valorant, at least in beta, where we don't exactly know how the meta of the game is supposed to be or where it's going, but I didn't find them oppressive or like overbearing. My gunplay would still win pretty much any fight. Maybe if somebody got a very beautiful like one-hit shot on me with one of the lethal ones, but that doesn't happen too often. Gunplay is what's going to win your fights. The buy system in the game is very similar to what you're familiar with CSGO and Valorant, except you get to keep everything after your death, which I think is good, and I think it simplifies it. You can buy weapon upgrades simply by clicking the weapon again. You upgrade it 3 tiers. It's something like less recoil, bigger mag, longer damage range, or little things like that. Better hip fire, you know, bigger mag, suppressor. There's some final level thing that you get for upgrading it 3 times. But you can upgrade your melee weapons to throw further, deal more damage, I guess hit harder. There's pistols you can upgrade, which I think is neat. Some people just spend all their money upgrading their pistols, so they have a great pistol for the pistol round. Some people buy a melee weapon and go in meleeing in the pistol round, like me. You can buy up to 1 extra gadget, which on PC is the G grenade gadget key. And you can't carry like a grenade and a flashbang. You can only have one or the other. You can also buy yourself various perks. It's down at the very bottom, you'll see a whole bunch of perks that you can buy. And these perks are different for each rogue. Some rogues that are more stealthy will get perks like Silent Footsteps for 5 seconds, or Speed Burst after you take damage. And then more aggressive ones will be like Immunity to Fire, or a weapon reloads after you dodge roll, and little things like that. But the better they are, the more they tend to be expensive. Some of the perks cost like more than you can make in a single round. And overall, I like the system. I like it because I don't lose all of my guns when I die. I feel like I just get to keep what I've bought and what I earned. It's very simple, and I don't feel like I'm being punished very much for having a bad econ game. Like when you're playing Valorant and CSGO and you're dying a lot and you're not really killing very many people, you're going to have a miserable economy, and you're just going to be stuck with like shotguns and pistols and little SMGs and stuff trying to take down people that have rifles, or like maybe if all my teammates die I can take one of their rifles. But with this game you just get to keep what you have, which I think is really nice, and I enjoy the simplicity of the weapon upgrades. One fact I should add is that like all those other games, actions in-game do earn you money. You kill people, you shoot them, you plant or defuse an objective, that's going to earn you bonus money, so you can just spend a ton more. A neat feature in the game, not a major one, but neat, is that I like you choose your own spawn by the plane drop. So you jump off and you fly in on your wings, and it's basically letting you choose your own spawn. There's a limited distance you can fly, but you can put yourself on whatever path you want to be on. But you leave a big smoke trail, so if you take a look at the enemies who are also parachuting, you can immediately get a good idea of kind of where they're going or where they want to go. So there's a little metagame there that's fun. The game itself plays well and looks clean. I do want to clarify that I think the graphics in this game are simple. They're not jaw-dropping, they're not crazy, they're not elaborate or over the top. Instead, I would use the word deliberate. It kind of reminds me of the game Portal, in that it had very little wasted space. There's not a whole lot of crazy like RTX reflections and particles and stuff blowing up and flying around. It's a very, very clean game. It has what you want and doesn't have very much else, and I think that's good for a competitive game, and probably why they chose it. There's not very much clutter on the maps, there's not stuff flying around, there's not birds making me think there's parachuters or fire effects and just, you know, like crazy particle physics and reflections. It's pretty much a clean-cut game that will make sure you don't get distracted by the clutter and you can always see people. Now, it's not as beautiful as running like a fancy game like something, what's a good one, Cyberpunk 2077 or something like that. But for a competitive game, it makes a lot more sense, and I'm pretty sure that was done on purpose. As a result of this, the optimization is quite well, since it's not doing anything particularly complex. The PC gameplay was very smooth for me. I had high frame rates throughout with no stutters, no hiccups, no problems, and by the looks of it, it looks like it's going to scale very well for console. I can't imagine any consoles having a problem running this game. One neat feature, though, is that if you do full screen on PC, which I think is how most people play, and you tab out of your full screen, which in most cases will cause it to minimize, it will actually have a tiny opaque pop-up in the bottom right-hand corner, like a Discord or like Twitch overlay, and it'll let you know when you've got a match. So I personally play a lot of full screen windowed on PC, so I can tab in and out for stream stuff. But if I were running full screen and I just tabbed out, I would have no idea if I was in a match or not, but this nice little feature is there, so I kind of don't miss my cue. The gameplay itself is overall smooth and pretty intuitive. My character felt responsive, and they did pretty much everything I told them or wanted them to do once I got used to the controls. I did bumble a little bit because the default controls took a bit of getting used to, and this is where we're going to start getting to the criticisms, in that I really wish there was a left-right, like, hit some button to do left shoulder and some other button to do right shoulder, instead of one that just kind of flips them back and forth, or kind of always defaulting to one side after a certain number of time. The shoulder flipping felt much more designed for consoles, and the tactical role was bound to what normally would be my melee button. And one of the bigger gripes is that grenades are very much so designed around console players being able to hold down the bumpers, but for mine I have to tab over to my G key and hold that down, which does limit my movements because I can't move left and right and like quickly throw it around a corner. That can be fixed. I'm just going to rebind it to somewhere on my mouse and make it easier, but the default controls are not super amazing for PC. And I can tell that the aiming system and the grenade system and the movement system and a lot of this has been made for controllers. I'm a PC gamer and a console gamer, and you know, we only had access to the beta on PC. I didn't get to test the console version, but everything about it just screams this is designed for console, and the PC version is not an afterthought, but just more focus went into console, I would say. But anyway, backing up a little bit off of that, the overall systems are quite good. I think the aiming system worked well for this type of game. I like that it was a little bit less punishing than Fortnite and a little bit more COD-like, and that I can full auto people. The PUBG and Fortnite little red X that show you where your gun is clipping walls in third person is a very nice touch too. And it felt smooth enough to where when I died in this game, I knew why I died, I knew why I lost the fight, I generally knew where the enemies were, and I couldn't really blame BS. I couldn't blame ghost footsteps, I couldn't blame god aim or stuff, or like really cheap stuff, or I got distracted by fire and birds. I died because I wasn't as good as the other people. And that goes back to the core philosophy of the game that seems to have a huge focus on competitive. And I literally don't know anything about this. I'm not in the NDA Secret Cool Kids Club, but something about this game just screams future esports. I think Hi-Rez has esports plans for this game. Every rogue in the game has counterplay, the weapons have counterplay, the maps are set up in a very fair kind of way, in my opinion. Somebody that played a lot of Search and Destroy put a lot of thought into making sure that the times that it takes you to rush to various points and flank points in that mode are very well laid out. Just playing it, I kind of get the impression that the game was designed by former Halo and COD pros, because it feels a lot like the kind of game that they would make. And if you like that kind of competitive game, you'll probably like Rogue Company. And now that we're near the end of the video, I do have a section of bad stuff that I want to talk about, things that frustrated me. It's not a whole lot here, not because it's a sponsored video, just there's not that much bad going on. Any game that's designed to be just really clean and smooth isn't going to get a lot of hate from me, but here goes. Rogue Company does appear to be set up to sell microtransactions in the future and do battle passes and things like that. I know this is a point of contention in the gaming community. I do think that the art style and aesthetic this is a subjective criticism. I find it a little bit sterile. I kind of, I gave it compliments for saying it's clean and not distracting, but in the same side, it feels a little bit clean, a little bit like glass, like polished. There's not enough grime and grit and dirt and smoke and stuff going on the map. It feels very like first game on a new console, kind of smooth. Let's see what we can do with the graphics. And I'm not super on board with that design style all the time, but I do understand why. It's for the competitive balance. I had issues with input stacking. I think this might be the biggest criticism, and it was especially on drops. Off the spawn when I hit the ground, if I spammed multiple buttons before I hit the ground, or if I hit the ground and tried to roll or go straight into sprint, or just basically pressing buttons before the action was available, they wouldn't input when the action was available. They would just do nothing. So it'd be like holding down the sprint key and not able to move, or holding down the forward key and not able to move because it wasn't available to me until my feet touched the ground, but I pressed it early. Now this only happens when you're dropping in off the plane. So you just do your drop, pick your fingers up off the keyboard for a split second, and then you can start sprinting and doing things. And it didn't do it consistently, but it did do it a little bit. Never had any of those kind of problems like actually in game. I didn't, anytime I wanted to roll or do whatever, it wasn't an issue. I did struggle with the reloads because I'm used to kind of the COD ones. So I would kind of spam buttons and I tried to reload cancel in this game, and that did not work at all. So that kind of messed me up. But yeah, the landings are a little funny. I'll give it that. Not super big on those. And on that note, I do think the default PC keybinds are a little bit weird, as we talked about it earlier with the way you hold down the grenades and the way you toggle your sight. I just get a feeling that most of the people developing the game were playing on a controller, and that's okay, because one of the good things about me being on PC is I can just rebind all that stuff that I don't like. One of the few gameplay elements that I have problems with is just that it's third person in general. It brings back a lot of like the PUBG and Fortnite style corner peeks, where people would kind of walk into corners and walls oddly and use the third person spectator camera to see around them, even though their in-game character would be just like staring at a wall or something random. It reminds me a lot of those games, how you can just kind of look around and do weird peeks to get vision that would be impossible in real life. And for me, that's kind of frustrating. It's something that always irked me about third-person shooters. I think it's because I'm a little goblin and I like to sit around corners and try to set up melee traps and cheese people and like trick them and, you know, be a dark corner McDougal. And you can't really do that when they can peek you around the corner before you can peek them, depending on which side or shoulder you have. And you'll see people like facing walls or facing backwards to see around things. Don't really like that, but that's endemic to every single third-person shooter ever. Fortnite, PUBG, Gears, every game that does that has that. So that's just something I'm gonna have to deal with. And I do worry about the overall balance of the game when it comes to abilities. So far, I will say they all seem quite good and quite balanced, and I don't really have many complaints about the abilities in the game. I will say that maybe Dima and Ronin are a bit strong because theirs are so lethal, they'll one-hit you if you actually hit people. In my experience, you don't hit very much with those. They're more zoning than anything. But if you go into the zone, bad things happen. However, in a game like this, weapon and ability balance is just absolutely critical to the core, like, functioning of the game. So if one character has an OP combo that's hard to beat, that kind of breaks up the entire meta and balance and design goals of this game. To the best of my knowledge and my limited playtime, it's not in there yet. But again, me being concerned with peaks because it's third person, I still have to be concerned with balance because it is an ability-based game, and I can't tell you what the future will hold for balancing patches and character fairness. I also just think that the revive times are a little bit too short. They're kind of brutal. You have 10 seconds or less in most cases because you'll take a little extra damage. It's usually like 7-8 seconds to revive a teammate. So when you get downed, if you're not right next to your buddy or you're not in a super safe position, you're not coming back, period. Like when you're downed, you're usually downed. You don't get a whole lot of reses. My opinion of this or idea is that they probably wanted to avoid the Battle Royale style like 1-minute res times that would take forever, or leave people crawling over the map and just have some guy run around and pick up like 3 or 4 of his friends like super easy. So they wanted you to have shorter revives, but it does kind of peeve me. It like puts me under a lot of pressure and it kind of makes me mad at my teammates when they don't respond to my immediate plight of bleeding out. So that is pretty much all for this review of Rogue Company. I think I've covered every single thing about the game. Overall, my opinions of it are quite positive. I think the reason I said in the beginning that this is a better version of Valorant is it has everything that Valorant has, but it's also on console, so I can cross-play with my friends. And I think it's got a slightly more fun art style, at least for me, character design. And most importantly, I think the aiming system is vastly superior to Valorant's. I utterly despise Valorant's Counter-Strike aiming system. That's probably the #1 reason I'm not posting that game on my channel a whole lot. But this one has a more Gears and Fortnite style third-person aiming system that I'm familiar with, that I'm comfortable with, and that I think is fair. So that's why I like it better than Valorant. And a lot of you on this channel are familiar with J-Hub. He's in all of my videos. He's been helping me do stuff for years. He had a positive opinion about this game, which is kind of crazy because J-Hub has hated like every new game in forever. Like he'll play a game for like 2 minutes and be like, this game is trash and it's gonna die. And he sat here and played Rogue Company with me for like 3 hours and just legitimately enjoyed it, which was relieving for me and makes me hopeful for the future of the game. So I think it's quite a good game. Flaws are minimal or just endemic to the type of game that it is. I hope that you enjoyed this review. If you did, you can click the link down there below to purchase the game and use my creator code. And if you just enjoyed the video, you could like, favorite, and subscribe. Drifter out.